Welcome to the first edition of Christian News Weekly, a program that will update you on local and international news, but from a Christian perspective. Coming up, Christians in Liberia gather to fast and pray as the deadly Ebola virus continues to spread in West Africa. And in the Middle East, Christians face increased persecution as the Islamic State group makes further advances. And on a lighter note, a look at one of the oldest yet most mysterious religious monuments in the world today. Good evening, I'm Sharon Bogwa. In our top story this week, over 2,000 people have died and more than 3,000 infected with the Ebola virus since December 2013, according to the World Health Organization. The current outbreak, now being referred to as an epidemic, has outstripped all previous outbreaks, both in the number of people infected and in the number of countries simultaneously involved. For the last 4 decades, the virus has mostly struck relatively remote areas where doctors could quickly isolate communities and stop its spread. This time, however, the virus is spreading effortlessly across 5 West African countries. Border closures, flight bans, and mass quarantines have failed to control the epidemic.
The Ebola outbreak, which began in the West African nation of Guinea, is said to have spread relatively quickly to the neighboring countries of Liberia and Sierra Leone, and more recently to Nigeria and Senegal. In May this year, the medical aid organization Doctors Without Borders closed one of its Ebola treatment centers in Macenta, Guinea. The organization packed up and left, leaving only a handful of staff on standby, convinced that the outbreak had ended. Instead, new cases appeared across the border in Liberia and then spread across to West Africa, carried by the sick and dying. Now, months later, Macenta is once again a hotspot for the disease. However, Liberia and Sierra Leone are the worst hit, with each country reporting more than 1,000 confirmed and suspected cases of the disease. The WHO reports that the epidemic will take at least 9 months to contain, leaving an expected 20,000 victims of the disease. And a separate case not related to the outbreak in West Africa was confirmed in August this year by the Democratic Republic of Congo. Government officials across Africa have been very concerned. In a recent statement, Nigeria's health minister, Onyebuchi Chukwu, stated that as long as there was one case of Ebola anywhere in the world and people were allowed to travel, every country in the world remained at risk.
Meanwhile, US President Barack Obama says helping contain the current Ebola outbreak in West Africa is a national security priority, but it's going to be a long and difficult task. Speaking recently on NBC's Meet the Press program, Obama said the American military will help set up isolation units and equipment in the region's worst-hit areas. He warned that if the virus spreads, it could mutate and conceivably reach the United States, becoming a serious public health issue, although he said, quote, "It shouldn't reach our shores." Britain will reportedly also open a 62-bed treatment center in Sierra Leone in the coming weeks. According to Britain's DFID, the center will be operated by military engineers and medical staff with help from the charity Save the Children. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon also called several world leaders over the weekend, including the British Prime Minister and French President, to urge them to send more medical teams and money to fight the outbreak. Meanwhile, governments across Africa have also taken quick action. According to the African Union's Commission Chief, Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, AU members agreed to open borders and allow air travel to and from affected countries at a meeting held recently in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Still on Ebola, Liberian President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf recently called on all Liberians to seek divine intervention against the Ebola epidemic currently ravaging the country. President Sirleaf called all Liberians to a 3-day period of prayer and fasting to seek God's mercy on the people, forgive their sins, and heal their land.
Liberia has been the hardest hit by the Ebola epidemic in the region. Out of a reported 3,600 cases of the disease, more than 1,600 have been reported in Liberia alone. A recent statement from the WHO states that thousands more deaths are expected in the coming weeks. And in a statement, Liberia's Council of Churches echoed President Sirleaf's sentiments, terming the epidemic a plague and divine retribution for, quote, corruption and immoral acts that continue to penetrate the Liberian society, end quote. Church leaders called on Liberians to repent and seek God's forgiveness for these acts.
We'll take a short break, but we'll be right back with more local and international news. This is Christian News Weekly. Welcome back. You're watching Christian News Weekly with Sharon Bogwa. And from closer to home now, reports from Mombasa say that a man suspected to have links with Islamic militant group Al-Shabaab was shot and killed Sunday by anti-terrorist police in the Bondeni area of Mombasa County. Idris Muhammad was killed when police acting on a tip raided a home in which the suspect was staying together with an accomplice also suspected to have links with Al-Shabaab. The Somali-based terror group was behind the attack at Nairobi's upmarket Westgate Mall in September last year. And on the same theme, in a highly anticipated address to the nation, US President Barack Obama last week finally unveiled his plan to degrade and ultimately destroy Islamic State militants who have seized control of parts of Syria and Iraq. President Obama will step up both military and diplomatic efforts to counter the extremists in the region.
The Islamic State rose to global attention earlier this year, but has been in existence since at least October 2006, when it was established as the Islamic State of Iraq. The group appears to have become a magnet for disenfranchised young Muslims from several parts of the world. A recent report from America's Central Intelligence Agency placed the number of IS fighters in Syria and Iraq at around 31,500. It is suspected that some of these originate from other parts of the Middle East as well as a number of Western countries. In an audio speech released in July, the group's leader, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, spoke of alleged oppression of Muslims around the world, describing the Islamic State as one that would return dignity, might, rights and leadership to all Muslims. And in July this year, Boko Haram leader Abu Bakr Shekau declared support for IS, later announcing the capture of the Nigerian town of Gwoza in the name of the Islamic Caliphate established by al-Baghdadi earlier this year.
Meanwhile, French Muslim leaders are calling on imams to use their pulpits to weigh against the Islamic State and offer a message of support for Christians in the Middle East. Moderate Muslim leaders last week called on French mosques nationwide to offer prayers for persecuted Christians and send a message to young people that the Islamic State group is neither Muslim nor a state. Dalil Boubacar, rector of Paris Principal Mosque, said it was crucial to support Christians against barbarity, stating we are all, no matter our religion, Christians of the Middle East. French youth make up the largest number of European jihadis heading to fight in Syria and Iraq. And in more news from the region, thousands of Christians in Iraq have fled their homes after they were made to choose between leaving, converting to Islam, or facing death. For the first time in centuries, Iraq's Nineveh region and the city of Mosul have been emptied of Christians. And in Syria, thousands of Christians have been displaced during the country's 3-year conflict.
Christian refugees from Iraq and Syria are now sheltering in Lebanon, sensing safety in the country which has the largest percentage of Christians in the Middle East. Lebanon is also the only Arab country with a Christian head of state. For months, Lebanese Christians have watched as other Christians flee Islamic extremists in Syria and Iraq, fearing their turn will come next. And for the first time since the end of the Lebanese Civil War in the 1980s, Lebanese Christians are now arming themselves. They hope to be able to protect themselves from possible threats from the jihadis.
We close this week's broadcast with a look at an ancient archaeological wonder which has for centuries been a fascinating and mind-boggling mystery. Stonehenge, a prehistoric monument in Wiltshire, England, is one of the most famous historical sites in the world today. It was built close to 5,000 years ago and is a ring of massive stones surrounded by ancient burial grounds. The highest stones at Stonehenge are up to 30 feet high. Those in the inner circle, more than 80 in number, weigh up to 4 tons each and are believed to be from an area roughly 400 kilometers away. Those in the outer circle weigh as much as 50 tons each and are believed to originate from an area 30 kilometers north. Built during prehistoric times and without the benefit of present-day technology, it is estimated that at least 600 men would have been needed just to get each stone to its current location. But who built Stonehenge and why? Archaeologists agree that Stonehenge was a temple, but to which gods and exactly how it was used remains unclear. How the stones were transported and subsequently lifted into an upright position also remains a mystery to this day. Several legends surround its construction, with one fictional account stating that some of the stones were transported from Africa by giants thousands of years ago. Interestingly, some Christian scholars have been investigating the theory that giants could indeed have been involved in the construction of Stonehenge, linking these creatures to the fallen angels described in Genesis chapter 6. But could this be true? Did prehistoric giants indeed walk the earth, leaving behind evidence of their existence through fascinating structures like Stonehenge? Or is this just a substance of folklore? Well, only time and perhaps a little more research will tell. That's it for today. From me and the team at Christian News Weekly, thank you for watching and see you again next week. I'm Sharon Bogwa. Goodbye and God bless.